It is time for the Word on Wall Street. Joining me right now is IHT Wealth Management President Steve Dudash, EER Shares Managing Partner and Chief Investment Officer Joel Schulman, and Lippau Oil Associates President Andy Lippau. Great to see everybody this morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here for the Word on Wall Street. First up, the Federal Reserve moving to extend the era of lower interest rates. The central bank ending its policy of preemptively raising interest rates to avoid inflation. The Fed now essentially allowing for moderate inflation to help in times of economic weakness. Joel, your reaction to what you heard from the Fed yesterday?
I think it's essentially a good move. I mean, we've gone 6 months now with no monetary policy. I mean, when we have interest rates at the 30-year bond of 1.4%, the 5 years of 30 bips, we've got a spread about 110 bips. It's gone up. But we've got to remember, back in 1980, we had interest rates for the 5-year at 16%. When you have high interest rates, and you don't need double digits, but when you have high interest rates, the monetary policy becomes effective. Since March, when we reduced rates to almost zero, the monetary policy has been ineffective. I mean, essentially, the Fed is operating with one hand tied behind its back. They've had fiscal policy, and they spent $3 trillion plus on fiscal policy, but we haven't had a chance to use monetary policy. This move, this announcement yesterday by the Fed to gradually increase inflation, allow it to float above and below 2%, brings monetary policy slowly back into the game. I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I mean, just in case you were wondering if we were going to have rock bottom interest rates for a long time, you've got another answer this morning. And that, of course, is a resounding yes. President Trump giving investors a sense of COVID-19 optimism last night in the night 4 of the RNC as he officially accepted his party's nomination for a second term. Listen to this.
We are delivering life-saving therapies and will produce a vaccine before the end of the year, or maybe even sooner.
Steve, what do you think about this? What are market participants looking at once we do get a vaccine in terms of change on Wall Street?
You know, I've loved tech for a long time, and I've been touting it for a while, but it's gotten over its skis right now. And I know it's the big story. I know, like, Apple going on right now and even Walmart and TikTok. But we want to look beyond that. Right? You can't justify a company like Salesforce, who added the equivalent of GM Motors to their market cap in one day. That's just not realistic. And yes, in the tech sector right now, it's all about the optics, but it's a little bit over its skis. So we're looking the other direction. We're looking at, casinos, defense companies, airlines, things that have gotten beat up for the most part through this COVID world, because we're going to get on the other side of this. And I got to add, I love the Walmart TikTok idea. I think that is so much fun. Anyone out there who says they saw that one coming, they're lying to you. But if you really think about it, it does add a whole new dimension to what your typical Walmart customer is, and gives them a lot of data that they definitely don't have access to. So it's fun. It's different, and I like the fact that they're taking a shot at it. So that'll be interesting.
Well, sure, and it certainly makes sense with competing with Amazon, right? With Amazon's business.
Yeah,
Look,
they have to. 100%.
Apple's impending stock split. You mentioned Apple. Today is the last day of trading for the technology giant before it splits its shares on Monday. What's your take on Apple? Because once we see a much cheaper price, Steve, that often opens the door to individuals to say, well, I haven't owned Apple before. It's been too expensive. But now at $100 plus, then maybe it is worth looking at.
And you're spot on, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right on that. Listen, we both know that the stock price doesn't affect who's going to buy an iPhone or an iPad or anything like that. But again, it's the optics of this. And there is a lot of investors who've gotten in the game in the last 5-6 years, and they're going to go out there and they're going to say, hey, I can buy 4 times as many shares for every dollar that I put in. That optics brings a lot more new investors to the table. You're going to get a pop out of this. Now, it has nothing to do with the fundamentals. It has no real basis on stock price. But 8-10% jump just on this isn't unrealistic. I mean, we should be talking about, do people like the new iPhone that's going to come out and the new products and things along those lines? But the reality is, we're going to be talking about the stock price. We're doing it right now. We've been doing it for the last few days, and we'll be doing it through the weekend, and that will get more people buying. And that's why they're doing it. We both know that. They're just doing it to make it more attractive to new investors. And good for them. They're going to get a pop because of it.
Well, that's what a split That's what a split does. Let's look at crude oil. Hurricane Laura battering America's energy corridor in Louisiana for sure. Andy, your reaction to what's taken place? You've got crude oil this morning at $43.12 a barrel.
Well, it's good news for the refining industry because at the height of the storm, 13% of the nation's refining capacity was shut down. And those refineries in Texas are restarting and restoring operations. Unfortunately, the wind damage in Lake Charles is probably going to keep a small amount of refining capacity offline for about 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. What we've seen in the markets is that gasoline futures are now trading below where they were last Friday, showing that the market thinks that there's more than adequate gasoline inventory, and those refiners not impacted by the storm can make up the difference.
Okay, we will leave it there. As you see, chart of oil has been going up just over the last couple of days. Joel Schulman, Steve Dudash, Andy Lipow, great to see you, gentlemen. Thanks so much. Thank you for the word on Wall Street. Much more ahead. Coming up, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani is here, live on President Trump's RNC speech and fresh off of his own speech last night, as well looking at the state of our cities. Next hour, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn will discuss the RNC.